Good evening. I'm Keith Golly, Assistant Superintendent for Nassau Public Schools. I'm here today with Mr. Ed McDonald. Mr. McDonald is the principal of Nassau Regional High School, and with Dr. Amy Roberts. Amy Roberts is not only a foreign language teacher at the high school, she's also our International Baccalaureate Diploma Program coordinator. So Amy's handling all of the details around our IB program. As many of you know, the high school has applied for candidacy to be an IB school, and I thought we'd start out with Dr. Roberts or Amy giving us a quick overview of IB. Amy, can you tell us a little bit more about IB?
Sure. Good evening. IB originally started, the thoughts were planted in 1920 after the League of Nations and the International Labor Organization were founded in Geneva, Switzerland. There was a group of diplomats' children who were left with a various arrangement of how they were going to be able to complete their studies in order to return to their native countries and go to college. So the seeds were planted. It wasn't until really after World War II that IB started to gain momentum in terms of professors coming together, teachers coming together and creating a curriculum. And it wasn't until 1968 that it actually was first implemented. There were some pretty important people that were involved in that process. Harlan Harlow Hansen from the Advanced Placement Program.
Okay, yeah.
He was involved in it, as well as Kurt Hahn, who is the father of Outward Bound. And I'll talk about that more in detail, but the first graduates, there were 29 graduates in 1970 with the first IB diploma. And so it started as a way for them to have a consistent measure of academic success that students would be able to report back to their home countries when they applied for college.
So IB started with a diploma program. It started in '68, realistically, in terms of that first initial.
That was the first, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then IB also offers a primary years program and a middle years program. And again, locally, some of those schools exist, but as you say, IB is growing extensively right now across not only international areas, but even the United States.
As of May of 2015, IB had 2,795 diploma programs in place.
Wow. Wow. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the diploma program, since the high school is looking to become a diploma program school?
Sure. So the diploma program is really a nice liberal arts foundation. It starts with, the IB puts a huge emphasis on balance because, and their focus isn't just the academic, it's the whole student. So at the core of the hexagon of IB, you will see the learner profile, which is 10 characteristics that through the primary years and the middle years program, all the way through the diploma program, IB believes embodies the traits of an international-minded, respectful, culturally aware student. So around that are approaches to teaching and approaches to learning, and the way that we teach and deliver is based on an inquiry model. It's experiential learning. Really, that was the focus of Kurt Hahn, and again, I'll get back to him when we get to the core of IB, but there are 3 surrounding elements, which is the theory of knowledge, the extended essay, and the creativity, activity, and service. And then what I'll start with is the 6 classes. So you have, each student will have a 2-year program that is 1 course of their native language literature course. So ideally, we can get back to that too, but they'll have a literature course. They'll have a second language. They will have a history class. The individuals and societies can be history or psychology. They will have a math, they will have a science, and they will have an elective. And they can go back and choose from several of those categories, or they can do the arts.
Okay.
And that's the gist of the IB program, and they enroll in those for 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, they take an external assessment. Approximately about 70% of their grade is externally assessed. and that goes through the International Baccalaureate organization.
So students, since you said the courses are two-year courses in general, students who are going into the diploma program would be starting their junior year
Their
or 11th
junior
grade?
year,
Okay,
yes.
great. Ed, just a little bit more since Amy's getting into the courses for IB. How do you plan to incorporate those IB courses into the high school?
Thank you, Keith. So, because there could be some parents that don't have students here at this time, I just want to give them a brief overview as to the type of block scheduling we have.
Yeah.
So we're a block schedule school. We offer 8 blocks. We have an A day and a B day. We offer 4 blocks per day. So A day is A1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks. And the B day is B1, 2, and 3. And that B4 block rotates. So what happens is for 85 minutes, our students take 7 courses. And so that explains A1, 2, 3, 4, and B1, 2, 3. And then on that 8th block, each course, starting with A1, will sequentially rotate so that every 14 days, students will have an opportunity to repeat that particular block.
Yeah.
So when we get into the IB, as Ms. Roberts had mentioned about the hexagon approach, they have 6 courses in IB. So we will offer those 6 courses in those 2 days. And then on the 7th block, we'll offer the elements, 2 elements of the creativity, activity, and service, and the element of TOK, or theory of knowledge. Yeah. And then we'll keep that rotating block schedule so that students have the opportunity again, with the flexibility if they need more time, to rotate in with the different courses that we have. So now moving forward, as we look at the numbers, we're not quite sure how the numbers will look as students self-select the courses that are coming into IB. So initially there are 2 levels of courses. There's a higher level course and a standard level course. Based upon the numbers, we could combine those courses initially because we don't have the numbers in a particular course. So there's a little differentiation going on, an expectation. We also know that based upon the history of IB, that some students can do very well in AP courses. So again, taking a look at how we want to design the courses, the structure, the numbers, and the flexibility of scheduling, there could be at times, based upon the numbers of an AP course that aren't too high, that we might be able to combine an AP and an IB course. So those are some of the challenges ahead of us as we look forward.
So you're saying that the high school, though, would keep its AP program?
Absolutely.
Okay, offer the IB program on top of the AP program, and again, that could fit with students possibly taking some AP classes and similar students taking IB classes.
Right.
Okay.
And we know that, you know, one of our strengths is the educational opportunities and options we give to our students. So just as a quick discussion, because this discussion has come up before. So let's say somebody is very strong in arts or music and that's what they want to pursue. It might be that the IB program, based upon the commitment they want to give to that particular art, may not be a program for them. So, you know, the great thing is our students have options.
Yeah, and I think the other part that I've always appreciated about the high school is students aren't really required for prerequisites or certain GPA to be able to enroll in an AP class, to be able to enroll in an honors class. Is essentially if a student wants to challenge him or herself, they could sign up for an AP history class, an honors math class. Will the same hold true for the IB courses in terms of any student could potentially choose to take IB?
Yes. So again, you mentioned that one of the great things about NOSIT is the options. So when you take a look at college, when you make that transition going from high school to college, you get the opportunity to choose your courses. And my predecessor, Mr. Tom Conrad, that was his philosophy of giving students the opportunity to challenge themselves and giving them many options. When I talk to many of my peers out there, other assistant principals and principals, they're amazed at the selection of courses that we offer. And this is one of the strengths of NOSIT High School. And thank you to the communities for supporting that, because our students have so many options to go to. And again, IB is just another option for them if they choose to go that route. And again, part of our mission is to offer those educational opportunities to our students.
And Amy, you got into really, at least minimally, the 6 required courses that are content area courses. If you don't mind highlighting those again, and then just extending a little bit about the extended essay, about the theory of knowledge, and about the creativity, activity, and service course.
So I'll start with Group 1, which is the language and literature course. And the unique thing about IB is if you are a Hispanic student that comes from another country and you want to pursue IB, you actually can take the literature course in your native language and your second language in English. So it really differentiates for students for their strengths. In addition, and I'll move on to the other groups, but you can also take it as a higher level or a standard level. So IB requires that students take 3 higher level with a maximum of 4 and 3 standard level, or a minimum of 2. So the students are allowed to not only choose the courses, but the level of depth that they want to go into for each course. So back to Group 1 was language and literature. Group 2 is your second language. And at this point, that would be the student who's studied it approximately 2 to 3 years prior to applying. So there is also AB Initio, which we can look into offering at a later date, which would be where students started a new language those first 2 years of IB. Group 3 is the individuals and societies, which is your history of the Americas, 20th century topics, psychology. Those are the classes right now that we are looking at. Group 4 is your sciences, physics, chemistry. Chemistry not yet, but biology and physics are the first 2 we're considering. Group 5 is our math. So you have, in IB, you don't have algebra and an algebra 2. It's not distinguished as such. It's a combined called math studies or mathematics. So, and you can study that at the standard level or higher level. And then group, that was 5, 6 is your elective or your visual arts, which could be, at this point, it could be the visual arts, it could be band, or music, film, theater. Those are the options within IB. And you can also go back and say, hey, I really am good at languages, so I want to take French in addition to Spanish. And we have many students already that do take more than one language at NRHS. So I feel like this complements what we are doing in a way that provides students an opportunity at the end of their high school career to say, look, I did this. And we are really on that road.
And before we get into the other 3 courses, what I just heard there too is if there's an international student, international exchange student that comes in, their primary language course could be Spanish. Their primary language course could be Mandarin.
Yes.
And then the other part that I think intrigued me is you were talking about really some of the electives and the opportunities, the wide range of courses. So one of the key pieces that I think Mr. McDonald and I took away from our training was really the IB learner profile and 10 characteristics, but I'm thinking of one right now which is balanced, which is really driving towards looking at a balanced student with a wide variety of background, be able to pursue different interests.
Yeah, that is a big focus for IB, that it is not you know, an inch deep and a mile wide. Depth and the experience for the students, which really takes me to the IB core, which is the theory of knowledge. I'll start with that one. The theory of knowledge is based on really the French push for philosophy and textual analysis. And so IB was a combination originally of French and English cultures and the educational systems, and later on incorporated Spanish as their 3 official languages of the program. But Gerard Renaud was very adamant about theory of knowledge being a part of that. And so in the theory of knowledge, it's really, the students spend their entire time on questions of, how do you know what you know? Where's the evidence? How can you come to that judgment? And there's two reasons for that. One is that they felt that our disciplines are taught very much in isolation, and that students really needed to be able to delve into the relationships, not just the superficial interdisciplinary, but really how everything actually is related to each other. And then the second is by asking those questions, it teaches them how to learn. And so theory of knowledge is the one class that students walk away, they really enjoy that class.
I bet.
It will take place, so in that 7th period that Mr. McDonald was speaking of, we will have the theory of knowledge and CAST together, creativity, action, and service, which is the second component of the core, and that was brought by Kurt Hahn. He thought that students should have the experience in some way, shape, or form, and it's a very wide umbrella for those students to choose how they want to express their creativity, their activity, and their service. So they accumulate 50 hours in each of those topics, and they have a portfolio. I believe as of this year they start to accumulate a portfolio. The theory of knowledge is not formally, it has a 1,600-word paper that is part of it. And then the third component is the extended essay, which was also Kurt Hahn's idea, that students would pursue a passion and investigate some original research topic within their one discipline. They did want to limit it to be not interdisciplinary because of the magnitude that the paper could become. It's about 4,000 words and no more, and that's about 16 pages. But students work on that for over the course of a year. They have a supervisor to help them, a coordinator to help them write that paper, and that core is really, I believe, what the students walk away with more than anything.
Sure.
That sense of accomplishment, and that they can create, that they can actually create, instead of the type of writing that I feel they sometimes walk away with. They can piece together, but to create a thesis.
Sure. Yeah, and it's interesting too. Mr. McDonald and I recently attended the Category 1 training, as you know, and I took away so many pieces from the training and the next steps. But I think one of the pieces is what you're talking about, which is really the depth, the rigor, but rigor that's meaningful. Rigor that a student's applied. They're actually in the middle of changing college admission requirements as well. And one of those key pieces is that the community service is something real to the students, something that's not just listed on a piece of paper, I did it for 5 hours, but something that has meaning that they've really put themselves into and gotten heavily involved in. Ed, speaking of the training, just again, it was 3 days in Boston. You and I were together with groups from Miami, Brazil, etc. But what are some of the key aspects that you took away, and what did you learn about IB that you didn't already know?
So 2 things that I attached myself to and really were impressed me was the, and you and Ms. Roberts have alluded to that, is the profile of the IB learner. Yeah. So when I take a look at the traits and skills that they nurture and develop throughout the students, and I'm going to try and list them all for our audience, so I'm going to require your help if I don't. But they talk about the 10 traits. So they train students or nurture students to become good communicators. Yeah. They want them to be risk takers, inquirers, thinkers, and they want them to be principled, honest, and integrity as they go through the academic courses. They also talk about balance, which you've alluded to, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. They want them to be reflective, to think about what they know, what they don't know, and how they learn. Open-mindedness, open-mindedness in the sense of accepting other people's opinions and working with people in other cultures in a global society. Caring and empathetic and knowledgeable. And they, as you go through the program, you had mentioned the 3 programs, primary, middle, and high school. Those are the traits and skills that they build upon that are embedded throughout their curriculum. So those things really impressed me. The other thing that I love is Ms. Roberts had talked about the hexagonal model of IB, the philosophy, with the 6 courses that she had mentioned, and the 3 core elements of the creativity, activity, and service, the extended essay, and the creativity.
The theory
I
of
said that,
knowledge.
the theory
Yeah.
of knowledge,
Yeah.
right? So those are
Yeah.
the three. And then right in the center of that are students, the IB profile.
Yeah.
So it truly is student-centered learning. It's an inquiry-based, project-based learning that students truly work together, and they research, they do their research, they collaborate, and those are the things that I found impressive when I took a look at that philosophy of the International
Yeah.
Baccalaureate
I'm
program.
impressed that you remembered that
Yeah.
many. I wouldn't want to put myself on the spot for that. And as we started out by saying, really, that NASA has applied for candidacy, but there is a process here. We are not an IB school right now. So Amy or Ed, if you just want to highlight next steps and the timeline for all of this to occur.
Sure. Can I? May I?
Sure.
So we have applied for candidacy as of April 2016.
And I need to interject here. Amy deserves a lot of the credit
Oh.
since she did the vast
No
majority of
question.
work,
I had
so thank you for all
Quite
your
a
work
bit of
on
help,
that.
and I appreciate it. From
Thank you.
It feels really good to have turned that in because it's very exciting time. So our next step is next year, from now till next year, working for application for authorization. And that's dependent on a couple of things. We will need to write curriculum, but in addition, IB will need to, it's up to them ultimately, but we would apply for authorization next spring, April 2017. They would come to do a verification visit during the 2017-2018 year, at which time they would make a decision that we were approved, or they could give us a continuation to meet of candidacy, or I don't foresee the other alternative. But and so ideally we would be in place to begin courses 2018-2019 academic school.
Okay, yeah, so the current 8th graders, current 7th graders would
Yes,
possibly be those
yes.
first groups going through?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Given that timeline, Mr. McDonald, any thoughts, just any guesses as to what you're anticipating the enrollment to be?
I think in conversation or discussion, we project anywhere from 40 or 45 students, maybe to 70 when we implement
For that
the
first
program,
year?
For the first year.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
And that's out of typical 225, 250?
Usually for a class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. A strong group to start. And I know, again, I think the more that parents look into IB, the more they understand about the program, at least it's held true for me and you, I think. And Amy, certainly you came with the background. But there's a lot to be impressed by. There's a lot to be considered and thoughtful about, given kind of just everything that IB stands for right now. The piece that we want parents to know, the piece that really you want parents to completely understand, where could they go for more information, or how could they find out more information about IB?
IB has a fantastic website,
Yeah.
a depth of research. So you can go to ibo.org, www.ibo.org, and there is a section on the left that says benefits.
Okay.
And as you scroll down, there's one that says students, and I believe if you delve into that a little more, there's also a parents section. One of the interesting things that I did see when I was looking, you can also look up Harlan Hansen and Kurt Hahn and the International Baccalaureate Organization and its founding, and it really gives you a nice history, because I think this is very interdisciplinary, but once you understand the history, you can really see where the vision came from, and it's remained very consistent to that purpose. But an interesting fact was that Harlan Hansen was the director of the Advanced Placement Program for approximately 20 years. He had 4 children. 2 of those children were part of his Advanced Placement Program, but he was also a founder with IB. 2 of his children also participated in the International Baccalaureate. And so I found that interesting that that we are going to be able to offer those opportunities, hopefully for our students as well, that they can pick and choose the caliber of and the rigor of their education at NASIT as well.
And it was interesting when we were talking about the courses and you were talking about the steps, just that we have to start writing curriculum. And I do know, and Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both you and I came in thinking that IB had kind of a set curriculum.
Yes.
That there were pieces that, you know, that we didn't really have a lot of leeway. I think I learned differently at the Administrator 1 training, at the category training, and I for the first time fully understood what a course required, the freedom that teachers can interject into the course. Amy, you obviously have the background on that. So can you really just highlight a little bit more about course content? And you can be specific if you'd like to be in terms of a particular course.
Absolutely. IB does not, you're absolutely right, IB does not have a curriculum. We're not purchasing a curriculum, which is the nice thing about IB when you actually go to apply. There isn't, every school is different, so you adapt it to where you are. And writing the curriculum really involves the process of inquiry, action, and reflection. And that is a piece that I didn't really hit on, but the reflection in IB is such an important part for the students to become aware of how they learn and how they're growing throughout the curriculum. But as we already have much of our curriculum on Atlas. So it's a matter of revising what we have for those courses that we will turn into an IB course. It's not starting over. It's changing the way we approach the instruction, and the expectations of what we will come out with.
Yeah, and even when we were looking into the courses, taking away not only some of the freedom, but some of the connections that they really want students to carry over from one course to another, or from the extended essay into one of the topics that they're studying, creativity, activity, and service. Those connections, I think, are huge as part of IB. Certainly that's one of the benefits of IB, is really the learning is meaningful, as you said, reflective, and students have to think about what they're learning and really make sense of all of it. What are some of the other benefits in your eyes that IB would offer to students and or parents?
So what excites me is when I think about IB and I think about AP, I believe that Fordham University did an independent study evaluating programs of philosophies and curriculum. And the two Cadillacs, if you will, or however you want to phrase that, the best, came out to be AP and IB. So to have the opportunity to offer our students and parents these curriculums or these types of programs is outstanding. It's just whatever way our children or our students want to challenge themselves, they can do so. And those are some of the strengths we have. We talked about the options. And to have two premier programs to offer to our students, and that's the benefit to me is the offering and choices. We're not here to say that we're all AP or we're all IB. As you know, we have a variety of programs. We have a school within a school program. We have a connection program with the community college. Again, the reason for that, I believe, as you have alluded to, is just to give our students the educational opportunities and options for them to be successful.
And I think certainly one of the other benefits that comes from NASIT, I'm actually in the middle of working with your program of studies now. Any idea how many courses are currently offered right now?
It's many, pages upon pages.
And I think not only do you have that wide variety of courses, but you also have really the extracurricular pieces of NASIT that might not be available in a smaller high school. When you're dealing with a 2,500 student district and a 1,000 student high school, the athletics, the fine arts programs, some of the extensiveness of the foreign language offerings, etc. Really, that to me, just IB adds to what NASIT is about and the benefits of a student choosing NASIT or being in the NASIT system. We're running out of time, but just final thoughts, final pieces of information that are either sticking with you about IB that you'd like to share with parents or the community. Final thoughts?
I'm excited about the collaboration component of this. When we talk about best practice, we have great teachers here that do many of these things. They may not be looking at it as an IB model,
yeah.
but critical thinking, research, empowering students to do their own projects. I mean, these are all the things that we offer without IB. The fact that IB is coming in to focus on that, truly student-centered, and faculty and staff have to truly collaborate in preparing our students. One of our goals is, again, for best practice, is to hopefully all of our teachers have an interest and take some professional development in IB and can transfer and build upon the 10 traits and qualities that we talked about with the IB learner, because those are best practices, and that's what has me very excited.
Yeah. Amy, final thoughts?
Yes, I'm very excited. I think that we do a very good job of preparing students as they exit NOSIT as it is, and that this is just one more addition that has been demonstrated by data to, for students to not only do well as they apply to college, but also that they succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent point. So again, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. Again, I'm Keith Golly, Assistant Superintendent, here with Ed McDonald, Principal, and Dr. Amy Roberts, one of our teachers and our IB Diploma Program Coordinator. So any questions that you have that aren't answered by looking online at the ibo.org website, feel free to email one of us. We'll do our best to answer your questions. Thanks again. Have a good night.